Okay, here we are today, Citizens Eye, reporting from the Peepul Centre, and we've got a community news cafe here today with the team from Action Deafness, and I've got with me Russell James. Morning, Russell.
Hi.
And Elaine Carnie. Hi, Elaine.
Hi.
Right, both. Can you tell us a little bit more about your roles in Action Deafness?
Certainly. I'm the manager of AD Communications, which is a service that provides sign language interpreters as well as other forms of communication support for the deaf and hard of hearing communities. We provide lots of different types of communication support. We have a variety of freelancers on our books as well as staff interpreters. And it's not just sign language interpreters that we provide other things like, for example, electronic note takers, palantypists, lip speakers, deaf-blind manual interpreters. So we have a wide range of services that we offer to the deaf and hard of hearing community, and I think the most important thing that we want to emphasise is that not every deaf person uses the same type of communication support, so it's very important to kind of remember that, I think.
Yeah, and Elaine, does the service here operate with the rest of the service, or does it have a specialist role?
It's all linked in some ways, because there may be some things that one service will need to go out and do an appointment, so they'll need some kind of support, whether it's an interpreter or note taker, lip speaker, whatever, so they will then link into our service and ask for the provision there. So that all of these other services would eventually in some way overlap with our service, but we are a totally standalone. We're in a separate office because of our confidentiality and the nature of our business. We have to be a standalone office, so we're not in the open plan office with everybody else, but we do still have that close link with AD Action Deafness. Sorry.
Yeah. So is that confidentiality really important to clients?
It's absolutely vital. Just to give you a little bit of a background, basically the role of a sign language interpreter means that they go along to an assignment and they provide communication support, so they're there to facilitate communication between the deaf and the hearing person. Now that role is strictly confidential. Interpreters are bound by a code of ethics, which means they cannot divulge any information from the assignment to anyone else. Now as a service we encapsulate that confidentiality as well, so we ensure that everything that comes into our office is treated with strict rules of confidentiality. So yes, and it has to be that way to protect our customers and our clients alike.
Yeah. Anybody interested in accessing the service, how would they go about it in the best way?
Right. Well, we have our own website. People can book interpreters or other language service professionals online through our website. At the end of the day, deaf people don't actually pay for interpreters themselves. Basically, any service provider, anyone who has a service, has to ensure that that service is accessible. And under the DDA, basically what we would do is, if someone came to us and said that they wanted to put on an event, we would approach them and say that you would need to pay for the interpreting support to ensure that that event is accessible. So they can contact us either via phone, email, or, as I say, they can make a booking online.
So would it be mainly the people, deaf people, who would be using that to access, or are you available for other organisations to approach you and get? Is that a key part of it as well?
Yes, I mean we're open to anybody that needs to communicate with a deaf person or a hard of hearing person or deafened person. If they need to have a conversation with them about anything at all, then they can all access it. It's open to everybody, and because there's so many different ways of accessing the service, it's actually able for deaf people to contact us with no problem, and hearing people alike. They're on an equal plane.
That's really good. And can you tell us a bit more about specific things that you've actually got going at the moment, sort of like the Leicester, for instance?
Right. Basically what we did was we decided that because of the growth in our service, we needed to ensure that our electronic systems were updated. So we've had a brand new database and booking system developed for the service, and that's called LangServe, and that deals with all of our database requirements as well as our booking requirements and invoicing finance processes for our service.
And you were saying that's really grown in the last last few months?
Yes, over the last year the service has been going from strength to strength, and we've got a team of 5 staff interpreters. The amount of work that we have coming in has doubled over the last year, if I'm completely honest, and the service is going from strength to strength. But of course we do rely also on a pool of freelance interpreters, but all of the interpreters that we use are registered with the NRCPD, which is the National Register for Communication Professionals working with deaf and deaf-blind people. It's a very long mouthful, but this ensures quality standards at the end of the day. It ensures that we can benchmark and ensure that all interpreters are of a standard prior to going out on an assignment.
Yeah, we've been talking about your service being with the confidentiality making it a little bit more, private. But do you think things like the Community News Cafe, where it's a bit more informal, is a good way of getting information out about your service?
Definitely.
Yes, definitely. I mean, we have deaf people who come in and will ask to see us. They ask reception to ring up, and we come down and we'll talk to them. And I sometimes think that in this informal atmosphere, they're quite happy to talk about things. Obviously, if it's something that's really personal and confidential, then we'll take them away somewhere and have a private conversation. But I think in this area, in this cafe, it certainly seems to be quite relaxed. They'll have a cup of coffee while they're waiting, and I think it puts them at ease.
I think just to add to that as well, we do have a lot of members of the deaf community who come in to the Peepul Centre with the odd request to make a phone call to the doctors. They want to book a doctor's appointment, or they want to phone a solicitor, or they want to phone their insurance company, for example. And at the moment there is no funding available to cover that kind of service, and deaf people can't actually get access to the interpreters themselves. So what we tend to do is, if we've got an interpreter in the office and that's available, we will send them down and get them to make that phone call. So interpret the phone call directly for the deaf person on an ad hoc basis.
That's great. And can I just ask you both, what do you think would improve communications generally between non-hearing and hearing people? One thing you'd like to change?
Awareness. Need to get a lot more deaf awareness out so that people understand, because deafness is a disability you can't see, so people don't realise that that person's deaf, and that's the awareness that we need to get out there.
And I think people don't understand the extreme difficulties that can be created by communication deprivation. If you're a deaf person and you don't have access to all of these what's called incidental learning, all of the things that are going on around you, in terms of if you don't have a very good level of English language, it means you can't read newspapers in the same way that other hearing people can. You can't listen to the radio on the way to work like most hearing people do. So all of those, that incidental learning, things you pick up from the news whilst you're driving it, people don't have access to that, and it's really important to remember that someone who's cut off from the world around them, because of that, it can have huge consequences and can be completely debilitating sometimes. So getting information and awareness out there about the effects of communication deprivation, as I say, is really, really vital. And I mean, it can really affect people's lives.
Yeah. Thanks for communicating with me today about that, folks, and I think the passion with you, the way you speak about it, is absolutely fantastic, and I hope this goes in some way in getting some awareness out there. Thank you both.
Thank you.